It's dark here inside the turbine at the Tsiku Hydroelectric Power Plant in southern Taiwan. And the chief engineer, Chi-Soon Cheng, has discovered a big problem. There's no water flowing through the turbine. And without water, the hydroelectric power plant has come to a standstill.
This is the water gate.
Up above, the water reservoir appears to be in order. The drain directs the flow of water downwards as intended. But for some reason, the plant hasn't been producing electricity for weeks. As the head of the facility, Chi is often tasked with explaining problems. He says a typhoon a few weeks ago washed up so much trash that the pumps became clogged. Chi maps out the problem for his boss, the head of the Chianan Irrigation Association. The organization owns and operates the plant, and he's on the scene to survey the situation. The chief engineer shows him how a 2-centimeter thick steel pipe simply fractured. When it comes to hydroelectric power, Taiwan is still learning, and sometimes the hard way.
Taiwan is a small island. Until now, coal has been used to produce much of our energy, but the reality of climate change has made us rethink things. The government is watching closely to see if this investment pays off.
Min Fang Yang says hydropower is Taiwan's key to a green future, one that will be free of coal and nuclear energy. Clean energy is vital in Taiwan, where big cities are teeming with cars and motorcycles, and the air is thick and heavy. Overall energy consumption is compatible with Western Europe. There are 3 nuclear power plants in Taiwan, and a 4th one is almost finished. But the use of nuclear energy has long been a topic of debate here. And as Japan faces a nuclear crisis, Taiwan is looking for alternatives. But they have few options. Once rich in resources like coal, gas, and crude oil, the island is now forced to import those products at a high cost.
Taiwan is a developing country when it comes to renewable energy. The country has great potential for hydroelectric power, but hasn't taken advantage of it.
Chi-Soon Cheng is one of the rare few in Taiwan who's devoted his entire career to hydroelectric power. This plant is a labor of love. Until the plant is repaired, fitters are camping on site. Getting the turbine connected to the grid is crucial. Small hydro plants like this one are Taiwan's bridges to the future, helping to power the country while the solar and wind industries are developed. Renewable sources are expected to supply up to 20% of total energy in 15 years. Hydroelectric power has already opened doors here. As part of the EU's cap-and-trade scheme, large companies in Europe can purchase the right to emit a certain amount of CO2 in return for investing in clean energy projects like hydro in Taiwan. Chi says the foundations for hydroelectric power were first laid 80 years ago, when the occupying Japanese built reservoirs and irrigation ditches.
Back then it was difficult to cultivate the land. The water flowed from the mountains into the sea instead of onto the fields.
There's even a memorial dedicated to the architects. It's become a favorite spot for farmers to take an afternoon nap. They consider the Japanese-made irrigation and drainage canals to be a blessing. But the idea that water can produce energy is still new to many landowners here. 70-year-old Wang Nan works on his flooded rice field every day. Until now, he had to pay for maintenance on the canals. But now, the hydroelectric power plant brings in enough money to free local farmers of that financial burden. He says he has no experience with climate change.
I don't see climate change at all in my village, although the typhoon last year was unusually violent.
The sight and sound of a high-speed train zooming by. Wang stops work and says the trains consume a lot of energy. Then he's back hard at work again. Just around the corner, researchers are testing out the latest in alternative energy technology. This canal's gradient is low and the current weak, but the Irrigation Association has set up a research power facility to explore possible energy output. The data gathered here will be applied along the country's coast. It could be a major step forward for Taiwan. Mitsuku Wang wants to know when it will be ready to offer to her customers. She works in the emissions trading industry, and she's looking for clean energy projects that her clients, airlines and steel companies, can invest in.
It's really in need of renewable energy development, given the fossil fuel, intensive electricity grid in Taiwan and its high dependency on import of the fuel.
Back at the hydroelectric power plant, repair work is still underway. One relief well is finished, and a new pump will be installed tomorrow. Chi-Soon Cheng says Japan's nuclear disaster has prompted Taiwan to look elsewhere for energy, and hydroelectric power has been the #1 solution so far. For the migrant workers hired for maintenance work, a week of camping out has come to an end. They earn very little for the work they do. It's time for supper, prepared as always by this woman. She doesn't need much energy here in her kitchen, situated right next to the hydropower plant.